Hello, my name is Rose Riley, and I'm a member of the League of Women Voters of Washtenaw County. Welcome to our online candidate forum for the November 8th general election. The League is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization that promotes voter education and participation, and we host candidate forums to help voters make informed choices. Now, let's hear from the candidates.
Good evening. My name is John Chamberlain, and I will be the moderator of the forum tonight. It's my honor to introduce one of the two candidates running in the November general election for Ann Arbor City Council, Ward 5, Democrat Jenn Cornell. The other candidate, independent Jonathan Horde, did not respond to numerous invitations to participate in this forum. And so, Jenn, we are particularly happy to see you here tonight and to have you participating in the forum. And you may start with your opening statement.
Thank you so much for having me here tonight. And thank you so much for your continued effort to inform voters around the community. I sincerely appreciate that. So my name is Jenn Cornell, and I am a progressive Democrat running for City Council in Ann Arbor's Ward 5. My priorities are the environment. I have been a longtime advocate for the environment. I serve on the board of the Ecology Center. I'm an A20 collaborator. I believe that our goals as a city should be focused around advancing our net zero goals. My other goals are around having safe streets for pedestrians, bicyclists, and drivers, and families. I believe that Ann Arbor is a wonderful place to live, to grow a business, to grow a career, and to raise your family. And I want to continue to advance the things that make Ann Arbor just a wonderful place to be.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll turn to the questions. The first one is on land use. Please summarize for us your position on the role of high-density real estate development in Ann Arbor's future.
I appreciate that question. So as I said in my opening statement, that environmental causes are incredibly important to me. I believe that the way that we achieve our environmental goals, as well as the goals that meet the needs of people who work here, is to increase density. So I'm supportive of that. I believe that we need to have more housing in Ann Arbor. Nurses, teachers, people who work here quite candidly can't afford to live here. And a huge problem, the catalyst to that problem is density. It is having the right supply to meet the demand, which nationwide is a problem, but we feel it quite acutely in a town the size of Ann Arbor. So to me, the ability to have people close to transit corridors where they can commute by ways that don't involve a car, people, the 80,000 people who drive into Ann Arbor every day to work, the ability for them to live here. And I know from talking to families where I've heard, my sister is a nurse at U of M and she can't afford to live here and she drives from XYZ city. My cousin is a teacher in Ann Arbor. I would love for her to be able to raise her children right next door to mine, but she can't afford it. This was a common refrain when I was out knocking on doors and continue to knock on doors and talk to my neighbors. I believe that that's a shared value that we all have, that we want for people to work here, to be able to afford to live here. And I believe that that alleviates a lot of the issues around the environment that our city faces. We want people to not have to drive 20, 30 minutes to get into Ann Arbor in order to have their job here. We want for people to be able to walk, to bike, to take the bus, to ride share. There are so many wonderful amenities that Ann Arbor offers for people to get around town. It's the matter of getting them here and making them our neighbors to make it useful. So I'm fully supportive of density and more housing in Ann Arbor.
Okay, thank you. Next question has to do with the Gelman dioxane plume. Environmental contamination from the dioxane plume continues to threaten Ann Arbor. How do you propose to address this issue? And do you believe the plume should be declared a Superfund site?
Yes, that's a wonderful question. And I know that a couple of the organizers here know that I'm coming from a meeting, our annual meeting for the Ecology Center. So that was obviously a topic of conversation for attendees there as well, because it's something that is incredibly important to those of us who care about the environment. I know that right now we are under consideration for Superfund site designation. And I believe that in order to expedite the process of cleaning up the plume, Gelman, sorry, it's important that we have all the resources possible at our disposal. I'm supportive of the city's actions to date in order to get that at the federal level. And if that doesn't happen to pan out, then I'm 100% committed to working with our partners at both the state and the local level to prioritize this and to make sure that we do have safe drinking water for years to come. And the only way to do that is to remediate the pollution on the site. So I'm hopeful that we could come to some resolution where federal support is available to the city of Ann Arbor. If that doesn't happen, I don't think that that's a time to back down or to give up. I think it's a time to marshal our other resources and to build coalitions that already exist and to get them excited about helping Ann Arbor solve this problem, which is absolutely, for one of the largest cities in the state, should be a priority.
Thank you. Third question is on affordable housing. What is your vision for the role of, one, private developers, and two, the affordable housing millage funds in increasing affordable units in Ann Arbor?
Yeah. I think that the office that Jennifer Hall runs at the city, looking at what housing exists, where are the gaps in terms of affordable housing, I think that they're doing a really good job. And I think that the housing millage is just very nascent in terms of delivering results to our community. I'm obviously supportive of housing in general, and increasing market rate as well as affordable housing is critical to making sure that our city is accessible and works for people of all income levels. I think service industry workers shouldn't have to worry about parking a mile from work and walking all that way at 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. I think that people who want to live in Ann Arbor, and I said that earlier, because they work here, because they want to be part of our community, should be given every single opportunity to do so. So I'm obviously, I'm in support of having minimum affordable housing as part of any new development. And I'm extremely supportive of the city using property that it owns to develop affordable housing. Having Ann Arbor be a place where we can achieve our carbon neutrality goals is dependent on making sure we have adequate housing supply for people of all income levels, and affordable housing is an incredibly important part of that.
Well, we will turn to one of those topics next, the environment and climate. Ann Arbor has committed to A20. What specific steps do you propose to make this a reality, and how will the steps be paid for?
Sure. So I'm hopeful for the climate millage and everything that is wrapped up in its potential. As a board member of the Ecology Center, I've spent almost a decade putting my time, my free time, away from my family and my, disposable income is, whatever level meaningful for my family, towards environmental justice and environmental equality. In my mind, I think that we can continue to put more resources towards advancing A20. I'm an A20 collaborator. I understand that its goals are audacious, but as a city, if we aren't willing to commit to doing really hard things, are we doing anything at all? I believe that the goals that we have that are fairly micro, so in working on transportation issues as it relates to increasing housing, that's one small action that has a huge impact on the city and on its environmental goals. I think looking at things in terms of electrification, incentivizing people to choose solar and alternative energy practices, and where we can, making our traffic practices more environmentally friendly. So for instance, when we can introduce traffic calming, we know that not only improves our environmental goals, but it also improves pedestrian safety. I think what we need to do is look at our environmental goals in terms of a lens of inclusivity, and how can we piggyback on other larger goals that we want to achieve in order to get the most done in the quickest amount of time possible.
Okay, thank you. We turn next to the question of money in politics. Please describe to us how you screen campaign contributions and how you balance your values with the objectives of donors.
I that's a really interesting question. I will say that. I will say that there was an instance in which I received a donation from somebody whose values did not align with mine, and I quickly refunded those. In general, I believe that people who, well, I can say in practice, not even in general, but in practice, people who had and have donated to my campaign are people that I've personally met and whose values align with mine. I feel as though my platform around housing, making Ann Arbor as family friendly and advancing those aspects of our community that make it a family friendly place that you want to raise your family. My little ones are 8 and 10. I also have an 18-year-old and a 20-year-old, soon to be 21-year-old. I believe that my values align with donors who understand that I bring a family forward voice to council, that I bring a working mom's perspective to council. And these are people that I have met before and I have taken the time to talk to before. And I believe that in those conversations, they understand that I am a respectful person who listens to their needs, thinks critically about what the city can do to advance whatever objective it might be in order to get them to where they are also excited about living and working and being in Ann Arbor, and that those shared values is what inspires them to give.
Okay, a final question related to basic services. Earlier this year, the city approved borrowing to fund road repairs, the interest on which will be paid from road millage revenue. How will these bonds be paid off? If the city must borrow to provide basic services, do we need to reprioritize city spending?
So one of the really exciting things about what having fresh voices on council, I think, is a fresh look at how city is currently operating. And I believe that that's to an extent what voters voted for in the primary election. So, and I wanted to say, I think basic services is such a terrible way to describe what's actually the most important services that we have in Ann Arbor. So I know that Ann Arbor does maintain and continues to monitor the quality of the roads, the safety of pedestrians and crosswalks. What is bikeable in our city, which again aligns with our 820 goals. But for me, the idea of being able to borrow for the future is smart when we have really pressing and demanding needs. At the doors, I heard over and over again that people didn't feel safe, especially people with limited mobility didn't feel safe on our sidewalks because of the quality of gaps and cracks. People on the roads are worried about losing a hubcap because of some roads that are just in disrepair. And so I would support and be an advocate for making sure that we prioritize those roads that are the worst. And in the way that we are able to, in terms of borrowing against bonds, to be able to advance that and accelerate that work on other roads that are maybe a second tier priority, I think that we would all collectively see the benefit from that and ultimately be able to reap the rewards of that by having safer and higher quality streets.
Okay, that's the end of our questions. And now we turn to you for the closing statement.
Thank you. So just to reiterate, my name is Jenn Cornell, and I am a working mom here in Ann Arbor. I'm excited to bring the voice of a parent of young children to City Council. I'm looking forward to advancing our progressive ideals, especially as it relates to the environment, as it relates to city services, safe streets, and housing, increasing our housing to make sure that it meets the demands that are facing our city right now. In my mind, welcoming more neighbors to our community increases our tax base, increases the funding that the city has available to do things like accelerate road projects, to improve our parks, to improve the way of life as it is downtown. I believe firmly in communication and collaboration. My background is in communications, and being able to pull in the right partners, to making sure that our commissions are working effectively, and to make sure that as a whole, what City Council does is reflective of our constituents. I'm committed to listening to my neighbors, and I'm absolutely committed to thinking through innovative ways and processes and working with our community so many intelligent and incredibly smart people live in Ann Arbor. We can all learn from each other. And I think that that's an important part of the cohesiveness and the community aspect of governance that we're all seeking to improve in Ann Arbor by electing someone like me who's never been on council before and is enthusiastic to do the job and to do the job well in a representative way.
Good. Well, thank you. And thank you for, being available tonight and taking part in the League of Women Voters Forum.
Absolutely. Thank you, John.
Thank you. Good evening.
The League thanks the candidates and volunteers who participated in tonight's forum and community members who submitted questions. Please urge others to view our forums. Most importantly, please vote in the November 8th general elections, either by absentee ballot or in person.